Hey guys, it's Jen from beautyriotx, and today we are going to talk about the Morphe Jeffree Star Artistry palette. I haven't touched this yet, I just got it yesterday. Ulta has it now, and we're gonna try it. If you know me, you know that me and Morphe don't have the greatest relationship. I have two favorite palettes from them, the Jaclyn Hill OG palette and the 39A Dare to Create palette, like first wave of them, like original one that came out. Morphe tends to be very inconsistent, but Jeffree Star is known for his great eyeshadows from his brand. Morphe is known for their inconsistencies with their brand. Do I think Jeffree was like, you know what? I want to give my people, my fans, an affordable eyeshadow palette. No, I don't think he did that. I think he's under contract with Morphe. That's why I think he came out with this palette. He's a businessman. That's what he does. He's a millionaire. He's a smart business guy. This was a really smart move. All of his Morphe collabs do wonderfully. So I'm going to try this palette out in my normal fast forward way. I will kind of stop here and there and kind of talk a little bit if something comes up that I need to talk through. After my try on, I'm gonna talk about the palette. I'll swatch a bunch of shades that I don't use on my eyes, and we're actually gonna compare it to one of his palettes, but to see if it's up to his standards, because I know Jeffree Star has high standards because he's such a smart business guy. I don't think he would put out like a shitty palette, even if it was through another company. But you know what, I digress. So let me get into this eye look and we'll just see how this palette is. Here we go. So I apologize, I did my cut crease off camera and then I just kept going, not realizing I need to be filming it. So I ended up putting Nate on top of the cut crease, and it did go on a tiny bit patchy, but I think it's because I put it on a slightly damp concealer, which it still actually felt really nice, and I'm gonna put something on top of it anyway. And I think I'm gonna cover it with the pressed glitter right here. I haven't really heard too much about it. All I know is that it's a pressed glitter. So let's actually see what it's like. It does feel like it's got some stick to it. Looks like it's swatching okay. I'm not gonna use any adhesive or anything, no glitter glue. I'm just gonna tap it on and see. It's not doing anything. Like, I'm barely getting anything, and I'm taking off the Nate shade. Okay, so note to self, you need a glitter glue with the glitter. Thankfully, there's only one glitter shade in here that I will not be using today. So I think what I'll do is I will top Nate with Glam Rapids right here, which is like a slightly, not lime green, but it's like a pretty kind of, I don't know, how would you describe that? It's slightly metallic green shade. No, that's not very nice. I mean, it swatches okay, but as like it's not depositing anything. Okay, weird. Yeah, I guess I'm not doing anything. The rest of that eye, which I'm a little disappointed in because it was going so well. Not really sure where to go from here. Okay, so I guess the next eye I'm gonna do something different. If you haven't seen my channel before, I tend to do this when I'm trying a palette for the first time. I do a different look on each eye just so I can use as many shadows as I can. I think I'm gonna use like the neutral green shades on this side. Give me a minute to prime. Hopefully I'll remember to turn my camera on this time, and I'll be right back. I forgot to turn my camera on again to do the filling in my cut crease part. But I used drive-through, which is beautiful, and this closer to the inner corner. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to wipe this side off and do this on this side because I don't love the way this looks. However, I will say this, all the shades worked very nicely on this side, but because the metallics didn't work well on top of that Nate shade, it didn't end up looking the way I wanted it to, so I don't love the way this looks. So I'm gonna wipe it off and do this on this side, and we'll pick more colors to like smoke the lower lash line out and all that fun stuff. So give me a second and I'll be right back. All right, so I finished my eyes kind of with the brown neutral look with that kind of army green on the lid. And now we're gonna go in, and this green really calls to me. I think we're gonna smoke out the lower lash line with this green. So the shade is called Wake and Bake. And I'm gonna start kind of on the inner part of my eye and kind of work it out because I do have brown. I don't wanna go in and make it really muddy. So I'll try to keep it as bright as possible, and it'll probably get a little muddy over here, but that's okay. It's actually pretty nice. Ooh, I love that like bleeding, smoked out eye look. Do inner corner, and I think we'll just go in with this first shade, Welcome, right here. Inner corner worthy, no problems there. Let me just throw eyeliner on, we'll come back, and we'll do some swatches. All right, so here's one more look. I'm gonna start with the top row and just kind of work my way down. And all right, so the first 4 shades, we have Welcome, Back, To, My, I'm sensing a theme here, Channel, Wand, Noise, and then going on to the next row, we have Lynn, and then 1985, which is this matte, kind of peachy shade. Kind of reminds me of like Creamsicle or something from Makeup Geek. Is that right? Creamsicle? Or is that another brand? I don't know. All right, we have the next 4 shades, which are some of the ones that I did end up using. These swatch, and they actually performed really well on the eye. So we have Mogul, Self-Made, Dog Mom, I didn't use this on the eye, I forgot. And then Honest Truth, which is probably one of my favorite shades. Although, I am gonna show you guys something that looks kind of strange. In the pan, I don't know what's going on, but it looks lighter in the middle, and then it looks discolored. It looks like the outsides are deeper in shade than the inside of the pan. The inside looks lighter, and then as you work your way out, like towards the outside, the shade becomes deeper. I don't know why that is. It's kind of strange. All right, onto the third row, we have Designer Label, Mr. Diva, Boss Angela's, and Pink Fleet. All felt really nice. We have the last 2 in the third row, Calabasas, and then Don't Know Her. Moving on to the 4th row, we have Rolls With It. I skipped the glitter shade because we already saw that. And then we have Girl, or Girl. Next we have What's the Tea, which I used kind of to buff out the dark brown on my eye, which I kind of am dying over. One of my favorite shades. The gray shade is Vroom Vroom. That metallic silver is Custom Rims. And then Glam Rapids, which was that shade that I tried to put on top of the green shade Nate over here before I wiped it off, that didn't do anything. It swatches okay on top of nothing, but when I tried to put it on the matte shade, it did nothing. Now mind you, some people don't realize this. When you guys watch influencers do swatches on their hands, like you're watching me right now, I'm wiping it off with this wet facial cloth. Even though I'm letting it dry, it's holding on to a little bit of that moisture. So even though they're swatching really well, or it looks like they're swatching really well, I mean, there is a little bit of a base that it's going on to. So just keep that in mind when you see swatches, like people do swatches. So this is what I use to smoke out my lower lash line, that green. So this is Wake and Bake, Nate, Drive Through, and then the brown that I used all over the lid, Hi Dude. And then we have the last shade, which is, I heard was amazing, this matte black. Oh yeah, that's really nice. Fast Lane. For the most part, all the shades, I mean really, all the shades swatched fine. It's kind of hard to find too many issues when you swatch things, but as you saw, Glam Rapids did not go on well, the metallic shade, on top of Nate, which is the brightest green shade. The glitter shade did not do anything. And I realize usually those shades do better on top of just a sticky base, whether it be just a concealer for your cut crease or just a glitter glue. I understand that, but I've also found glitters that work fine over anything. ColourPop, Perfusion. So you can find glitters that work. This one doesn't work on top of everything. You have to have some kind of base, I imagine. I wasn't going to do this part because I had the idea of it wrong, but now I understand why. So my friend said, oh, why don't you compare some of the shadows in here to one of Jeffree Star's palettes? And then I was like, that's a great idea. And then as I was sitting here ready to do it, I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. They're made in two different factories. These aren't Jeffree Star shadows, they're Morphe shadows. And then I realized what she meant. Like, are they as good as his shadows? Regardless of if they're from his brand or not, are they as good as his shadows? So I'm gonna actually do some swatches and compare Morphe shadows, Jeffree Star shadows, to the Morphe Jeffree Star shadows. And just a handful of them. I mean, obviously none of these are dupe palettes for this palette. I'm just gonna grab a few from each of these palettes, both of which I really do like, so I'm giving them a chance to see how these shadows compare to each other. And like I said before, I've had some really bad fails with Morphe shadows in the past. Jaclyn Hill's palettes, not the original one, I love that one, but like her Vault palettes, they were fucking horrible. Like the Boss Babe palette I thought was trash, but there were some really good ones from Morphe, but their consistency has just been up and down for me. Like I never know what to expect when I get one of their palettes, so it's deterred me from wanting to try their palettes. Jeffree Star palettes, I've usually never had issues with. I have the Blood Sugar, I have his first Beauty Killer palette. Do I have any more? I don't think I have any more, honestly. I wasn't called for any more of his palettes until this one came. And honestly, I wasn't intrigued by this palette, but I thought I would try it because Ulta came out with it, and I was like, you know what? If I don't like it, I can return it. Whereas if you want to return his other stuff, you have to return it to his website or whatever, and it's more expensive. So I thought this one was worth giving a shot because it was less expensive and I could return it if I didn't want it. Or if I didn't like the quality of it. Anyway, I'm just gonna get the fuck on with it. You know what I'm gonna do? Maybe I'll use a different palette, because I talk about this one a lot, and I love this palette. Maybe I'll use one that I also like, but it's a slightly older palette. Let's do the 3502. Again, these are both very warm. This one has a few more neutrals and like obviously greens in it, so none of these palettes are gonna match each other, but we're just gonna kind of see how the formulas measure up and swatch next to each other. So let's do, it's gonna take me a minute. I'm just gonna do like 2 or 3 shades from each palette just to kind of give us an idea of how they feel next to each other. Okay, they each have like a slightly dark brown. So we have Hi Dude from the Morphe Jeffree Star. We have Innervenous from Jeffree Star's Blood Sugar. And then we have just a kind of brown. Okay, so we have the Morphe Jeffree Star, the Blood Sugar, and then the regular Morphe 3502. All right, so the one in the middle is Blood Sugar, the one on top is the Morphe Jeffree Star, and the one on the bottom is the Morphe. Obviously the shades aren't dupes for each other. The Jeffree Star one in general felt the best. None of them felt bad, so let's start there. They all actually swatched okay. So let's do like a kind of warm, medium, maybe like reddish shade, since that's kind of where we're at here. Let's do a metallic shade. So we'll do Wand Noise from the Morphe Jeffree Star. We'll do Blood Sugar from the Blood Sugar palette. And then we'll do, oh, these all actually have, I think this is Ruby from the 3502, which is right here, which is also metallic. So again, they're not color dupes, but we have Morphe Jeffree Star, Blood Sugar, and then the Morphe. And actually, again, they all felt okay, they all swatched okay, and the Morphe one actually swatched the best and most pigmented, oddly enough. Now let's do like a mid-tone, maybe like taupey kind of shade, because I see one of those in each of the palettes. So What's the Tea? That was actually like one of my favorite shades from this palette. We'll take Ouch from the Blood Sugar palette. I'm sorry, I should have been showing you guys the shades all along. We're gonna take this Ouch matte shade right here, and then we'll kind of put that up against this shade called Contour right here. Again, they all swatched nice. Oh, that What's the Tea shade is great. I guess from just touching Jeffree's palette, I can see, with the exception of the handful of metallics that are in here, because honestly, again, I wasn't impressed with those, I could see where he okayed this, because they weren't honestly a far cry from the way his mattes felt performed, because I think his mattes are very nice from this palette, and his Beauty Killer palette, again, very nice. And like I said, they're very nice in here. And they're very nice in this palette, but a subscriber just said to me from my last video, from whatever I just posted on Monday, what would happen if all my makeup was stolen, what would I buy first? My 39A Dare to Create palette, I got that when it just released from Morphe, like when it first came out. She told me she got the same palette, but when it like came back out another time, like when it was re-released, and she said it wasn't like some of the colors were patchy and not that great. So it just goes to show you, like, you never know with Morphe. You just never know. So even if you ran out to get this 3502 Second Nature palette, this particular one in my hands, I love. But you may run out and get one tomorrow at Ulta, and it could be the crummiest, crappiest, most horrible palette you ever lay your hands on, and you could just be thinking I'm insane, and I have the worst taste in makeup ever. You may get one, and it could rock your world. With Morphe, you never know. Although I bet you anything that Jeffree has no problem putting his foot down when it comes to his makeup collabs with Morphe. I guarantee you he puts business before friendship. I don't know how much friendship he has with Linda and her company, but I guarantee you it doesn't even matter, because when it comes to his makeup, you can bet your ass he is gonna make sure that every palette that comes out, whether it's his brand or not, every palette is gonna be good. And if it's not, he'll fix it or find a way to fix it, or whoever made it is going to fix it, because that's just what he does. I'm not always the biggest fan of him, but he doesn't put out bad makeup. I'm gonna give him that. I would say, if you were looking to get this palette, if it seems like a palette with colors that interest you, I don't think you'll be disappointed. So that was it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.